So hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Water Cooler Chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer, whether it's delegating, broadcasting, transcoding, AI inference, or developing on Livepeer in any way. We're here to ask questions and get answers. We got a couple topics ahead of us, the payment stream contract, pools, number of orcs on the network, better Treasury talk, and also bounties and features. Yeah, AISPE. So I would like to quickly jump into actually Jonas's topic, which is around the number of orcs. Jonas, tell us what your topic is and what your thoughts are around your topic, please.
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, obviously the maximum number of the orchestrators that we can have active is 100, and the last time I had a look, the amount, if you wanted to enter as a new orchestrator, you would have to have like near enough 2,000 LPT to stake, which I think it makes it quite difficult for for new people to join the community. And I've heard, I'm not sure if I heard it here on Water Cooler Chat or if I read it on Discord, but I think there were a discussion that this number might change and it might go up. So just really interested that if there's any more information about that.
Cool. I can
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
I could jump in and sort of I could describe how it works, how it could be changed, and then maybe open it up for other comments or questions. Yeah, first of all, a really good point. It's been a long discussion topic. It's a parameter on the network right now that can be moved via governance. So someone could make a simple proposal and say, I want to change this value from 100 orchestrators to 150 orchestrator slots or 200 orchestrator slots, and that could open up, far more room and dramatically bring down the amount of LPT that needs to be staked in order to get one of those top slots. So it's actually an easy sort of adjustment to make. But the thing that needs to be considered, that people need to be aware of when they're voting on that, are like, what are the consequences? And the most direct consequence is that in order to secure the micropayment scheme that pays orchestrators, so that orchestrators can have confidence that if they get a winning ticket, the payment can be cashed in and they'll receive their money. It hasn't already been spent. It means that every time you increase the number of orchestrators, you have to increase the deposit that's required for a broadcaster or a gateway node to have in order for their work to be accepted on the network by default. I don't know that dollar amount or that ETH amount that's required under 100. And I think someone could look it up. There's math in the code that would dictate it. Someone should do a little analysis and report on it and say, hey, if we increase the orchestrator set to 150 or 200, what would be the required deposit, just so that everyone knows. It's related to what the gas costs are on Arbitrum, and they're not very high. It doesn't cost a lot to cash in a payment ticket, so maybe the deposit's not actually that high. But I think the community needs to know that number if they're going to vote on a change. The slightly more involved solution would be, hey, yeah, the deposit requirement is high by default, but a lot of orchestrators actually are not worried about double spends. They think there's a pretty high probability they can cash in payments regardless. Maybe someone could add a setting to the node that could let orchestrators accept work from gateways that don't have a big deposit, and they take a little risk, but in practice that might not actually ever play out harmfully. And so that's an option that would require someone to do a code change to the node. I don't think it would be too complex. It would be like an option they could enable. I think those are two of the considerations. Of course, there's also, is there enough demand? Do we need more nodes? What are these? Would people just spin up a lot of nodes given their current stake? Would it help anything? I think those are all fair questions to discuss, but yeah, maybe outside the scope of how it would work.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about, whoever is going to put the proposal forward. And I guess that's the LIP process, right? To change the smart
That's right.
contracts. Yeah, so the LIP process, that would be like a prerequisite is to have, you know, somebody to know the financial impact of that from a gateway perspective. Because I think, I run a couple gateways myself, and I'd definitely be real curious about changing that number unless I knew what the impact would be on those deposits and reserves. Because you could go from working one day to being offline, and knowing somebody's going to put a proposal forward that would bring the change in would hopefully include the facts to make it easy transition for folks that are currently running gateways today.
It's a good topic too, and I'm kind of curious too around the necessity or interest of what would happen is if we increased it to say 150 or 200 orcs. Right now I think if you just scroll to like the last page on the dashboard, it looks like there's about 10 before like 10 or 11 like orcs that kind of look like they're just hugging up those spots due to the amount of stake they have. Like they're not really like it looks like somebody has like 20,000 LPT or 30,000 LPT and they're just kind of spreading it amongst these spots. And so if we went to 150 or 200, would we just be lowering the amount to, would this person go spin up 50 orcs now and then they just become like 500 LPT, so that lowers the barrier? Or would it go back down to like the sub 10 LPT to get in, and that of interest? I'm kind of curious around kind of what would be the goal of increasing it. Jonas, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, obviously, I was mainly thinking about the actual entry point for the new people, but obviously, what Dob explained, it's a lot of other things to consider, like the demand and the winning tickets and everything. So, yeah, it's not as straightforward as I thought. So, a lot of things to consider.
I think the with the AI job types on the network, I think there's a bunch of interest amongst hardware operators out there to maybe put it on the Livepeer network. And hey, if pools are available and they can just easily join a pool and start earning, that solves a bunch. But if the pool experience isn't as good as sort of the first class orchestrator experience, then lowering the barrier where they don't need to acquire 2,000 plus LPT in order to get started would be a win for sure. So I think it depends on how good the pool experience is.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, well, so the startup grant, I've had people reach out, and so we had just 2 more applicants in the last 2-3 weeks. Yeah, just this month we've had two more people going through the program, so they're currently going through it right now. And yeah, the latest one, I mean, it's somebody I know personally, and he was like, "Yeah, I'd love to join the network." He's been in tech since '95. He's built and sold his company to a public company. He built and sold an IT company in the '90s, and he's well versed in technology, and he's very interested in being a part of the network. But a 2,000 LPT barrier was not really obtainable for starting something up that unsure of what's happening. It's a large capital upfront investment. And so I said, listen, just go through the program, and he did. And so now he's got his stake, and now he's trying to acquire more stake. And so, is that program sufficiently handling this type of barrier to entry problem? Or again, is this larger issue more involvement by increasing the total number of orcs? And then also encouraging people from different geographical regions that maybe doesn't have the same amount of capital, like you're in Africa or areas where you could have the hardware, but you probably limited on your capital, and so getting into the top 100 is cool. So yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I think actually now it's probably more relevant than ever that could increase because we're on Arbitrum, the minimum stake is high, and even ETH1 gas is like, it got down to 1 GUI yesterday, which was hilarious because like we used to struggle with 100 or 200 GUI reward calls. So the dynamic has definitely changed. So it's a good discussion. Personally, I would like to see it increase.
But I think for Jonas specifically, I don't think there's any person actively pursuing increasing that number. I mean, I think Doug outlined some use cases that might be possible, but I think it's no small task to get that. I mean, I don't think it's a lot to file an LIP, but I just think it's, making sure your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted to make that happen. I don't think there's anyone walking forward with this task at hand. So, but maybe Jonas will be.
I think it's just like look at the code to see what the minimum broadcast deposit is under certain gas conditions, and then calculate, if it's a 150 or 200 orchestrators, what would the minimum deposit be, and just understanding that number and sharing it, I think is a good first step. It might be obvious. It might be like, okay, there's a 0.2 ETH broadcast deposit or gateway deposit right now required, like it goes up to 0.3 ETH, and everyone's like, yeah, seems worth it, and it becomes a no-brainer. But if it's order of magnitude difference that stops people from joining the network, then we have to consider how to go about it.
I'll quickly read some comments in chat here. Marley Mon says, my understanding is that there are currently less than 100 unique O's today, and one or more have split their stake to sort of, game the selection algorithm. If that is still true, why increase the number? Ben says yes, and it's hard to see the cap being raised when gaming the system is so easy. The person running 10 O's will simply expand to 30. The number increases. We did get rid of the random selection though, right?
Yeah, but it's still, I think it's back to the like 86% stake weighted, and there's still like price weighting in there. I don't think there's random in there anymore. And I defer to Hunter because he's the one that kind of has the keys to the studio algorithms. But I think that's an area where Livepeer Cloud is still looking at, a way to let gateways choose how they select, especially as it relates to AI inference jobs, where, stake doesn't matter as much for some of these others more than it does performance, reliability, and having proper metrics to make good stake or selection algorithm changes. I think would be one that could alter that conversation a little bit, where it's not as, stake won't matter for selection, or, maybe performance matters more, or people have a choice that they can make. But I think that's a slightly different topic.
Right. So the default selection algorithm currently doesn't include randomness. So therefore, having 10 orchestrators doesn't actually give you an edge anymore. Correct. With streaming, correct?
I think there is still a small percentage that if you have 10 orchestrator addresses and you're running them, that, you still get, additional chances, if you will, for selection. But it's probably unlikely that all of your orchestrators have enough stake to give you a high percentage of getting selected. In the past, it may have been higher with that 30% random. So I think it's been diminished a little bit, but as Ben pointed out, I don't think there's an easy way to fix that right now without more diverse gateways with different selection algorithms, more job diversity.
Right. I think the real benefit of having 10 orcs is like the randomness to get stake from someone that are just scrolling through the dashboard.
Oh,
Like
yeah, that too.
I think that is the one of the, although they're completely unbranded, so like some people just randomly, will delegate a node, and so you just have 10 times more chance that someone might scroll upon your node. Ben says, it's good that the random is out, but I'm more so concerned with a script startup. O's just fills up the slots again. Then we raise them again, and then they fill up again. So, does it really solve the problem? No, but it might make the barrier to entry just a little easier because, the one malicious node might they're not really being malicious. They're just doing what's in the protocol. But the one node that's spreading their stake become even more thin, so therefore, temporarily the stake is lowered, and so people can join with.
Yeah.
I mean, with stake being such an important part of the selection algorithm, I mean, just bringing a node online with 10 LPT is it even like an attractive thing to do? I mean, your chances of getting work are very, very small. Um, Something else to think about.
What if that person is very smart and brain power to help build?
Um, I don't. I mean, hey, that would be great, but I don't know that. I don't know that. I mean, they could still do that anyways. Depending. I mean, is there incentive just because they're part of the network now that they would contribute to building on it?
I, my thinking on that is that the performance testing framework gives them an opportunity to like build reputation and attract stake. So we need like the AI performance testing framework to be implemented so people have performance scores for all the different models and stuff. But imagine a new node operator comes on with 10 LPT stake. They're not winning real work, but they're performing the highest in given regions for AI tasks. They have a fee share. Then people would want to stake towards them because they would perform well on AI jobs and share back the fees, and they'd attract stake quickly. That's at least like in theory why I think it would be important.
Yeah, that makes
That's
sense.
a good argument. Yeah, that's a good argument.
Yeah, I also wonder the implications of the node, like the actual gateway itself, and reaching out to 200 or O's at the same time. Like, does it based on response, or is it you just have to respond quick enough, and like just pinging 200 versus 100 nodes at the same time, can that affect performance, or probably not?
Absolutely. The gateway's performance would be impacted for sure because it has to, keep and manage all those different orcs. And so it would definitely change the dynamics of the software from a gateway perspective. Um, I don't know what the impact would be negatively or positively on the overall network, but that's another facet that would be a good someone to have a report that would indicate what the cost impact and what the node ops impact might be. Um, Maybe Doug, that's something we could put on the grants ideas Notion page where it has testnet running, but I think it might be a good bounty or a grant to do the
Oh,
analysis just for that.
there's a new bounty board. If you haven't seen it, we'll share the link in the chat over here. But this is a good
That's
candidate.
right. Yeah, that's right.
So what it sounds like is we're unsure of the benefits of increasing it, just due to like it being gamed, and what do we actually want as a network. But there are implications in terms of performance, reserve from the gateway. There's quite a few knock-on effects that we'd have to ensure that they're acceptable and reasonable for maintaining a good, robust system. That's kind of what it sounds like. Jonas, do you want to add anything else to that, or any questions you have?
No, not really. I think that answers it. Yeah, it was it's like it was mentioned a few times is what I was thinking. The reason I was asking is because someone might have the computer power but not have the the actual funds, and I thought, is the community missing out? Obviously, I didn't even realize that there's so many other things to consider, and that there's the gaming part in it as well. So I think obviously there's probably pros, but there's cons as well. So it's a case of maybe just if we're gonna have more inquiries in the Discord, maybe people saying that they can't enter just because of the the amount of stake that is required, maybe then we can bring that back. But yeah, at the minute I wasn't asking it for anyone in particular, it was just in general. So I think there's a lot of risks that needs to be considered.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Like I said, I think the startup grant has been helpful in getting people off the ground if they don't have the stake. But again, it's becoming a bit. I mean, even the stake for that is getting quite high. To lend someone, your stake of 2,500 LPT, and then they're just learning how to run a node, and they're not really calling reward, and that's been tough. I can harp on my friend a bit because I know him very well. But he missed 2 reward calls, and I was like, dude, like, turn that on. Like, what are you doing? That's my grant. You're hanging over my head. I'm gonna pull it if you don't get that node up and go. So, whereas if it was 10 LPT, hey, you missed a few, you're learning, it's all good, right? So that's another interesting barrier to entry. If we have no test net, and you come out of the gate with 5,000 LPT, stakes are a bit higher for learning quickly. Maybe that's a good thing. But it sounds like, yeah, if someone wants to go ahead and start doing the research on increasing the 100, please do. My assumption is that probably won't get done until it becomes a pain point, and or at least a big enough pain point that it needs to happen. So just kind of curious when we feel that pain, make that change. Is it painful for anyone in here? Probably.
No.
It might not be that painful for people in here, but I think one thing I've noticed is like the group of people that show up in here are the ones who have been here for a long time, and we don't always see a lot of new entrants who are able to easily join the network and get started figuring it out and join these calls right away, right? So this is the sort of thing that might expand who shows up here.
Yeah, definitely. Quick comments. Brad said, if there's interest, I can try find time to get the lower reserve requirements up as a PR. I worked through it and used it on testing to put much smaller amounts as reserve on the gateway. Needs more testing / update tests written as well. All right, Brad, you got it. You got this, Brad. Write those tests. We believe in you. I put up 0.2 ETH on my gateway, and it seems to be operating quite well. Not that I can say.
Yeah, we had on the Livepeer cloud, we had 0.2 on our AI gateway, and last week, there was a huge Arbitrum spike, and it took our gateway offline because we were unable to fulfill those reserve needs with the gas so high. And it lasted for a couple hours, and we were seeing some reports of issues where folks were trying to get their jobs through and they couldn't. So it was really odd seeing that happen, but at the same time, though, it's not, there's a little bit of pain in here, especially if you're running a gateway.
Yeah. One bounty PR is already under review, and the other 2 have been assigned. Osmo says, why not rent out the compute to a pool? Yeah, I mean, pools have to become live first. forward with that, which is actually one of my topics. So yeah, pools could be a good answer to onboard cheap, plenty of power, which is kind of currently what they do, and so hopefully we can bring that into the AI. John says, if we made Brad's Livepeer router available within the main repository, added some docs for it, I think it could help with building of pools. I also think we need to change the discovery process to allow for larger orchestrator set. Yeah, I second that. Brad's Livepeer router definitely needs to be merged. It's an amazing tool that is being developed completely forked. So yeah, I think we should bring that in. Also, yes, you believe that John says, yeah, larger orchestrator set. All right, John, you can go ahead and start with the research on how that affects gateways. But yeah, I think it would be good, and I'm for adding O. Marley Mon says, I saw an article that was critical of the payouts on the network over the last month or two. I can rationalize several reasons for this, like scope of work, i.e. transcoding versus inference. In my opinion, it would be smart to make sure that current O's are in the black before increasing competition. And I say this as aspiring O, provided they are performing. Well, Marley Mon, you are an aspiring O. You're also a long-time member, so great to have you. I think most O's are in the black with how the rewards work. So I think that's the Livepeer token is doing its job and bootstrapping the network. Interpreter says, my friend running Stream Damon lost his spot in the top 100th, as well as his motivation after missing a reward call as well. But that's partly my fault. I'm trying to get him back online and delegated back to. Yeah, I mean, the 99th spot is like a really stressful spot, because you don't know if you're going to get kicked, and you might get kicked, and then you might get back in, and then might get kicked, and yeah, that's a tough place to be. So, and if you increase the orchestrator set to 200, that might be the case for like the not the 199th, but maybe the 190th as well, because it'll be shuffling through so much, kind of like how it used to be. But yeah, the 99th, or I guess the 100th position is very stressful. Cool. Aniche says, guys, if you want to find time, please drop your reviews. Really awesome. Cool. Jonas, does that kind of complete your question around the 100th O? Or sorry, the 100 active orchestrators?
Yes, definitely. And yeah, definitely. And thanks everyone for the input.
Cool. Is Rick here? No, Rick had to leave for 15. Hopefully he comes back. I'd like to talk about the topics around the bounty program and the feature requests. Quick update from the payment stream contract. This is more Treasury talk, but I think in next Wednesday, the following Wednesday, we have another Treasury call. But yeah, the real-time SPE initiative, they are successfully using the payment stream contract from the Treasury. So the Treasury pays out the payment stream contract and redeeming it. So it's cool to see. I was a bit nervous because I never actually tried the Treasury paying its contract because testnet was down. There was no testnet for the Treasury anymore, and I didn't bother putting through a 1 LPT Treasury proposal just to test it out. So, yeah, we kind of just launched into it with 11,000 LPT, and it seems to be working as intended. So, yeah. Doug says, dude, we're testing the Treasury in production. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. I mean, the contract's audited. We did lots of testing, but we just never did the actual payment release of funds from the smart contract Treasury, the Treasury smart contract to this smart contract. So that was done on chain, first time round. Treasury chat is win. Yeah. Titan is known for mainnet testing. This is not a good thing. I'm not proud of this. Don't get me wrong. Like, I tested this contract a lot. Like, I did lots of testing, but Treasury contract paying this smart contract was never. But now it has been. Pon says, what's the time limit of the contract? The time limit is set when you deploy. So you get to choose when the end of the contract is. In this case, it was 7 months. So from the time the contract was deployed, the full amount of funds will be. And yeah, so that's that. So yeah, successful launch of the Treasury, the payment stream contract using the Treasury, and the only thing now we haven't tested is if the two guardians, which is Ben and myself, Authority Null and myself, are the two guardians on that contract. I'm hoping that if we were to terminate the contract, that the funds would go back to the Treasury properly. That's the other thing we haven't tested. Maybe with Fanteezy's permission, we can, at the last one LPT, we can quickly just test it out and make sure that the one LPT goes back. And we've done our full on-chain mainnet testing then. That all the functions. So, out to them. Mainnet testing, love it. Don't love it. Don't recommend it. Okay, that is that. Rick, you're here. Rick, I'd like to go on to your topic around your bounty program and the feature requests. Tell us a little bit about what you've been working on.
Yeah, can you hear me also?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Great. Yeah, I've been working with the ecosystem team with Rich closely to launch a bounty program, as was promised in the AI SPE. This bounty program is not only for the AI SPE, but it's attested with the AI SPE, but in the future we hope to use it for other bounties as well, related to transcoding, related to other things, research. And the difference with the current grant program, for example, is that most of the bounties that are here are a little bit smaller, can be done by one person. This could change in the future, but that's what it currently is. So I shared the link already in the chat. I will do it another time. So signing up for a bounty is really easy. The bounties are on the issues tab. You will see the LPT amount that we allocated to the bounties there. You can look at the bounty. The bounty will list the required skill set, the bounty requirements, so what you have to implement, the implementation tips, and how you can apply. And if you are interested in working on the bounty, you can make a comment where you state why you're interested. And the team member that created the bounty from the AI SPE team or the ecosystem team, they will assign you to the bounty. You can start working. You get support in the developer lounge. And if you finish the bounty, you will receive your bounty rewards. So to stay up to this with these bounties, we also created a bounty channel. I will also drop that in the chat. Maybe some people already saw it. And in this bounty channel, all the bounties will be posted. So you will get an update whenever we, or in the future, any other entity on the Livepeer ecosystem will post a bounty. So that's the bounty program in a nutshell, I think. So the bounties that are currently in there, that's maybe nice to tell. One has already been completed and is under review. And we have 2 other bounties already assigned to somebody, and there's 1 bounty still open. The bounties are in all kind of categories, so they can be for research, so you don't have to do any coding. For example, the one that we have there currently is to look into optimizations, write a report about that, and then maybe in the next other bounty or our own team will implement the optimization if it's really the case that it increases or decreases the inference speed, but keeps the quality the same. You can also have documentation bounties, research bounties, like I said, the testing bounties, and development bounties. And so there will be bounties for all kind of experience. So people with different experience of programming. So if you don't have much experience, you can look for the good first issue label there.
So, Rick, just a question around these bounties. Does the person, are these bounties published by the team and then people can pick them up and get rewarded for them? Or are people kind of making issues around bounties that they would like to solve? Like, what's the process around this?
Yeah, so currently the bounties repository has a GitHub action that will close all the bounties not by people that are or a collaborator or within the ecosystem team or within Livepeer Inc. But we can add other entities as well to that. So it could grow in something that other people could also create from the whole community bounties. That could be something after this first test. But I think that requires more like an interface built on top then instead of using GitHub here. I also looked at providers that provide these bounty services, but most of them charge around between 10 and 20% of the bounty to do this task. And if you have really small tests, it becomes a big amount there already. So this is just a test to see how well it is received, how easy it is to get these bounties done by the community, to reward them for them, to acknowledge them for their works. And in the future, we could build it out in something that can be used like in a way that you state. So for example, you want to have something done within the Go Livepeer code, for example, you can put a bounty. One way you could do this, for example, is to have the bounty label on multiple Livepeer repositories or implement a more complicated bounty system. So currently it's mainly for collaborators in the bounty repository, ecosystem members, Livepeer Inc. And I can add any entity that wants to put up bounties. And it's also a little bit of security there. So if we let anybody put up a bounty, what we don't have much, how do you call it? A promise that they will pay the bounty there. So I was looking for another different word, but that's the closest I could find.
Just a quick question. I'm just looking through one of these bounties. So this one is 25 LPT. Is the amount of the bounty always going to be listed in the title? The way it works?
Yeah, currently it will be listed in the titles to make it really clear how much the issues are worth there.
Cool.
So, but any feedback is highly welcome because it's like I said, it's an initial test, and I think we need a lot of iterations to get it right there.
I see that like already people are interested in these bounties and asking to be assigned. Are these people in the Livepeer ecosystem, or are these people completely outside of the Livepeer ecosystem and just on GitHub scouring for bounties? Like who are these people, you think?
So I cannot tell if they are in the Livepeer ecosystem because I know that there are a lot of bounty hunters that just look for the bounty label. But given that the current issues don't have the bounty label, I think they're within the Livepeer system.
I would say for instance, who I'm looking at, like the two people that I've asked, they are not in the Livepeer ecosystem. These guys are doing much different stuff. So it's very interesting that you're attracting people that are interested in these bounties that aren't. I would go ahead and say definitively, like these two people are not in the Livepeer ecosystem. Just looking at their GitHub and my experience with dealing with just people around, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, I see that one is in the Livepeer ecosystem. The other one you were talking about, I think the Degradity Dev or so is.
Oh, sorry,
It looks like
Jason. Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Oh, I
we
see.
know.
Okay, so I'm looking at Mohawk, which is Leucoid, and Tegrity Dev. Dude, what a great name, Tegrity Dev.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, Tegrity Dev. Like, I don't think I mean, his repos don't look like they're anything to do with, So yeah, this is really interesting. Probably not interesting if you're like a GitHub person. Yeah, it's cool that attracts people to do these type of bounties, that are sourced, that can, outside sourcing of this type of work. Really, really cool.
Yeah, I love it. I hope we will see how it turns out. I will attach the bounty label as well. Maybe we can attract more people. But that would also would be nice if people within the community take on some bounties.
As for the amounts, I see 25 LPT and 40 LPT. Is that kind of the range of these type of bounties? Like, are you looking at, would you ever go much higher for much more sophisticated answers, or are these kind of the range, this 10 to 50 LPT range?
No, it can go much higher. The AISP has around or has 5,000 LPT to allocate for bounties in this phase of the SPE. And it really depends on how much work it costs to implement a bounty. So it always is a little bit guessing, because what I think that's something that it takes me to implement or somebody else, it really depends on experience with the code base, experience with what you have to do. But currently, what we're doing, we take a mean average of LPT price. We look at the number of hours, and then we take an hourly rate that's nearly equal to what AI software engineers consultants paid in the US there. So it's more like an estimate. It's really hard to get it right, I think. And if you have feedback on, for example, the bounty amount, that would be really appreciated.
Very cool. And is that, so that's the bounties. Did you cover the feature side of things?
Yeah, so we also, because we wanted more transparency within for the community, we also created a roadmap in collaboration with Product Lane. I also so at that roadmap you can see which features we are currently implementing in Q2, for example, Q3. So the further you go in the year, the less accurate it gets, because you can plan to do something, but you will not know where you will end up there. But apart from that, you can also submit features. There's like this widget at the left side, and if you submit your feature, we get a notification, and it can get onto this roadmap or onto the bounty board possibly. So, and also there's a changelog attached where you can see the progress. So the first changelog item is more like a starting item. It's linked to the AI SPE retrospective forum post by Doug. But from now on, we try to give this changelog updates there as well.
Very cool. I like it.
So yeah, so in the end, I would like to make everything fully transparent there. But the feature software we use, Linear, I contacted them. They don't allow yet to make it a fully public board. So this is our solution to make most of the items that we do visible, and you can put every linear item on there. And that's I'm working with Product Lane to automate that more, so to make more items visible.
Wonderful. Does anyone else have any feedback or questions around the bounties and feature board? Cool. Rick, anything else to share about these items or the SPE initiative, or anything else you'd like to share?
No, currently not. So really, thank you for your time that I could showcase this, and I hope people like the bounties. They give feedback on it, and they start building with us to improve the AI network.
Cool. that'll be a good segue into one of the last topics here, which is around pools. Just wanted to quickly let people know that I think that the initiative on pools is getting started, and like pools that are getting together that are trying to plan. I put out a post on the Titan Nodes Discord to see if how much there is for people to join pool with their GPUs of over 24 gigabytes of RAM. So, yeah, just kind of starting to get some responses. It looks like I've had over 10 responses so far just in the last like week. Look like a lot of spam though. People with, let's see, 3070s. I don't think a 3070. 4090s times 8. 3 A100s. People have A1. I'm surprised people have A100s. Those are commercial. Those are like commercial grade cards, right?
Yes, server cards.
Yeah, the server cards. Yeah.
Similar to H100. I don't know how the A100. Maybe it's 20,000 currently. The H100 is, I think, between 30 and 40,000 K. So.
Yeah, and that's just for the card. That doesn't include the hardware, the motherboard, and the server stuff that you need to run it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I just looked. The A100 is a little bit more. It's cheaper. It's around 8,000 currently. If you have the cheapest one on eBay.
Easy.
So yeah, we also got a lot of signups for the pools. So that's why it's important to integrate the pools quickly. If I remember it correctly, it was around 400 GPUs that signed up for the pools. We did not fully verify them yet, but adding the pools to the AI network will create a lot of supply there. And I think with the starter program starting next month, the supply will be much needed. Also, about your comment about the 24 gigabyte, John currently finished the new pipeline. So it's the audio to text. And for that pipeline, the Whisper model, it uses less VRAM. So lower VRAM cards will be able to be put on that model on the AI network.
Oh, that's great news. Yeah, there's quite a few people that would love to join with their lower cards. If we have an option for them, I think that would be great. Okay. That's about it from pools. I mean, I think it's still very early to say how that's all going to work out and what kind of supply we'll get from them. Yeah, I think that's on the roadmap, and I think it's coming down. Any last comments on pools, Rick? Any tell us?
No, we're working hard on getting the pools on board. We're working with all the pools in close collaboration, and we hope to get them onboarded as quickly as possible.
Cool. All right. Well, that's the top of the hour. The only other the topic was around like the Livepeer Innovators DAO and kind of some Treasury discussion. I don't know if we want to bring that up now or if we want to save that for the Treasury call. A lot of it is just around, I guess, politics of politics around, funding and people's opinions and differing opinions. So, the Livepeer Innovators DAO, I put it on the back burner since I've been quite preoccupied, so I haven't got around to creating a next step for the proposal. But basically, an update from that was we did an LID call, and there really was no strong direction as to whether we just continue with the results we have, regardless of pushback we have from the community, or whether we, change tact and go back to the drawing board and figure out a better plan. Those are kind of two options, or whether we need to kind of disband the LID and come back with a maybe an SPE or a smaller entity of like a different format for how we do retroactive. It kind of left off with nothing to go on. So over the next maybe couple weeks, I'm going to start talking with people and figuring out a couple of proposals to forward on what we should do. But as of right now, it got quite heated a few weeks ago on there was lots of Treasury proposals going through, and this was kind of one that was gearing up, and so a lot of people had differing opinions, and so I kind of let it cool down as I was kind of busy. So yeah, I'd like to wrap around back to that again in the next couple weeks, figure out a plan on what. Yeah, if anyone has any opinions on that, or we can save it for the.
Yeah, Titan. I was going to chime in on this. I will have to jump in a minute, so I can't get into the substance of lid itself. I think the Treasury talk's a good time for that, at least when I'll be around. But I did want to sort of make one important point. It's not specific to lid, though. You alluded to the heated nature of some of the discussions. I'm seeing that happen a little bit in collaboration between projects and SPEs and core contributors. I really wanted to emphasize, like, being around this community for years and years and years, how like good-hearted and well-intentioned everyone here seems to be just by their default. Like, we've attracted this community of like great individuals who seem to care about each other and care about Livepeer. And so when I see things getting a little like heated, or people attacking one another personally in Discord, it just seems like it really is out of place and out of character, and there's no basis for it. I don't think anyone here is evil or greedy or malintentioned or trying to steal anyone's work or take credit or misattribute funds. I think everyone is in this working together trying to make Livepeer successful. And I just wanted to remind everyone to maybe hold that as a starting point if they feel a little heated or on edge around a particular discussion, because I'm pretty confident everyone here has a good heart and a good nature and enjoys working together towards this goal. So that's it. I just wanted to chime in on that because I really don't want to see sort of negativity creep in just because there's funding involved and these sorts of things. So getting ahead of that before it becomes the problem is always a good idea.
Yeah, I echo that statement too. Like, if you've been following like the Martin Scarelli like drama on Twitter, like Twitter is just insane. Like, the amount of negativity and attacking, it's like, okay, like, put things in perspective. Livepeer ecosystem is actually really supportive, like 99.9. So I would say that we have a pretty good, collective interest in seeing the project succeed. We have, really deep conversation around, the merits of protocol discussion and Treasury discussion, and I think overall it's been very positive. And like, it can get heated, but I don't think it's gotten to the level at which it can't, like, sometimes it can get heated, but it really hasn't fallen to the level of like what can happen online. So I'm happy to see.
There's like 7 more circles of hell we haven't even begun to walk through yet.
Yeah, so like relatively, like, we're also still pretty early. So I just like, if we can continue to instill like that objective kind of treat each other with respect, I think we're pretty good at that. And if we can maintain that as long as possible, I think that's going to be so healthy going forward. And just jumping on one another for attacking, I think is going to be really toxic term contribute. So no, I just want to thank everyone who has chimed in a very appropriate and thoughtful manner, because that's what we need. So yeah, going forward, Treasury is just a very different beast than the technical side of things. It's economic, strictly economics, and yeah, it brings different stakeholders. It has different incentive models, and you got to figure it out in an on-chain decentralized way in itself, very unique. So yeah, I love everyone here, and I hope that we continue to be positive and bring constructive feedback and be kind to one another. So keep up that good work, everyone. Cool. Okay, with that being said, I get a lot of Treasury talk we can leave for the Wednesday, the following Wednesday, around specifics around proposals and thoughts we have. So with that being said, we can end it here. Does anyone else have any other topics that they would like to cover that we haven't covered so far? Cool. With that being said, thank you everyone for joining. We're all here to make Livepeer the open and decentralized, world infrastructure for video. Thank you for being here. We'll see you all next week. Cheers.